Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are using an oldie but a goodie. This is the big pickup tailgate. I also showed you some other birthday supplies I didn't end up using. And then this Year So Extra set, this is the tailgate alphabet. And then these are balloon numbers and letters. These are actually being retired, but they were perfect to make some custom balloons for my son's birthday card, which is what I'm making. So let me just tell you what I was up against, okay? So for every birthday party, my child picks a theme, and I do my very best to make sure that that happens. This year, he picked Ford trucks. And I'm just going to go ahead and let you know there's not a lot of options out there for decor or things like that. And to add to my challenge of making his card, he had told me last year on his sister's birthday, if you remember, we made the like the little Mickey shaker card for her birthday, that he also wanted a shaker card. So enter mom having to get super creative. So basically what I've done is I've stamped this tailgate truck. And if you're not familiar with this is an older set, but it's fantastic. And so it's still around. They've released a lot of like coordinating sets to kind of make it new again. But my intention here is to use the presents from Loads of Love. That's one of the additional add-on sets, but I believe it was for Valentine's Day, but I just need the presents. So I stamped 2 of the trucks, and that is because I am going to turn that tailgate into a shaker, even though it is not intended to be a shaker at all. And I will show you how I do that. So I did end up having to change this. Originally, I thought I would just need to do the like the tailgate portion, but I actually did need that license plate, and there is a die in there for that as well. For the coloring, I chose to go with my Copic markers. If you're familiar with Ford, my whole family is a Ford family, and so that's where his love of it comes from. Plus, he loves anything that's trucks, cars. He's 11 now, if you guys can even believe it. Those of you who have been with me since the very beginning. He's 11 and heading into middle school, and I'm not ready, but that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother another thing to deal with. But he has said for the last several years that he wants to be a mechanic, which is great. So I hope that that's something that he sticks with. So we're just going to go through. We are combining this with a lot of story time, but this video will also be up over on the Honeybee channel. It will just be more, you're going to get like a lot of story time and a little card. The other one, you'll just get the card. So if you're more interested in how the ins and outs of kind of how it came together, I would watch that one. So, we ended up having his party. So like, because we're a blended family, right? That means he gets 2 parties. He gets one at his dad's house and one here. Now, anytime he wants to do one that's like outside of the house, we typically do that together, so that we're not having to pay twice for like the one year he wanted to do a bowling party. And so we just did that, just hosted it together. My ex-husband and I have a very amicable relationship. We're very blessed to still get along, co-parenting wise. So that's not anything that's, too challenging for us. I realize not everybody's situation is that way. But if we're not doing something outside and we're just having like a regular party at the house, then typically he does get 2. Since his birthday fell in the middle of the week, it fell on a Wednesday. And we alternate weekends. So that means I had to go the weekend before his birthday and his dad had to go the weekend after his birthday. So I don't know. I don't even know if his dad does a theme or anything anymore. I mean, I really don't know anything about it, but I do know for us, we still let him pick a theme. On Jellybean's birthday, and I used to do this for Peanut when he was little too, but then he kind of grew out of it and wasn't interested. We had matching shirts, and we had I think it had all like the kind of like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse characters on it, and it was like like birthday girl, brother of the birthday girl, you get what I'm saying. And so he had told me again back then, and if any of you have more than one child, you know that this is pretty common, that like they want what the other one has. So he had told me that now he again wanted matching t-shirts, but then he picked Ford trucks. And I was like, what am I going to do to get, like, there's going to be no birthday boy, and there wasn't. So I went online. I was able to find everybody Ford shirts. Mine was just the symbol, and so was Jelly Beans. But my shirt was the same color as Peanuts, and Jelly Beans was the same color as Eric's. And then Eric and Peanut had a Ford truck shirt. So it was like I did the very best I could to coordinate them all, but they were not exact matches. Mostly because it's really hard to find a toddler shirt that, would be that kind of theme. And then the same thing for like his decorations. I told him, I was like, I can do like a blue, black, and silver kind of color theme and see what I can find. But I can't make any promises. So I was able to find a banner that had like a blue, like an old, just like this one's like an old, older style truck. I was able to find a banner that was a happy birthday banner that had that. I just bought him, those colored kind of balloons. I got a kind of like a checkered racing tablecloths and napkins. And then for his cake, traditionally, their whole lives, I have made their birthday cakes. And then I think it was 9, when he turned 9, was the first year he wanted an ice cream cake. And I made that one too, but it was a nightmare. Like the ice cream wasn't melting, but the frosting was, because it was like a whipped cream frosting. So I learned my lesson there. I was like, I'm done with making the ice cream cakes. If he wants an ice cream cake, I'm just going to buy it. And so that's what I've done. I did that last year. And then this year I did the same thing, but I did buy a printable image. Thankfully, the DQ store was very kind to me, because they're like, you have to, like, normally you're supposed to get this pre-approved, because even though they're selling it to you, like selling you the images, the people on Etsy, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the copyright. And we can't like print any edible images that violate people's copyright. Like, we'll let this one go through because you didn't know any better, but in the future, you do have to get them pre-approved. So thankfully I was able to get him like an edible image that had, a Ford F-150 on it, and had happy birthday and all of that. So that part did work out, but we was on the struggle bus, to get the decorations happening. And then after I bought him an additional t-shirt because I thought that he would like it. So I bought the ones that all matched, right? And then I bought him one that was like all of the Ford F-Series, like the timeline of it. So it was a t-shirt, just a black t-shirt that had all the Ford trucks on it. And that's the one he wore for the party. So I went to all that work to make sure everybody had matching t-shirts. And he didn't match anybody. But anyway, like kids are kids, man. So, but we had beautiful weather. Super grateful for that. And because I knew that I had this set from Honeybee, I knew I was going to be able to make a card in the same theme. The shaker bit is what threw me just a little bit. Like, yes, I could have done the truck and done like an oversized card to like put a circle in the background and made it a shaker. But because the tailgate has a die for the tailgate and then a die for the inside portion, I was like, I bet I could make the tailgate a shaker. And so sometimes we just have to experiment with that. Just a little note on the license plate. The reason that I colored it the way that I did is because that is like, my kid super pays attention to all vehicles that are on the road because he is very interested in them. And so that license plate mimics the colors for Ohio because that's where we live. So for these little presents, I just went with kind of a very general, it wasn't meant to be a rainbow, but I did end up using all the colors in the rainbow. Just kind of a very general, like happy, bright birthday coloring of the presents because, that's what you would normally see like at at a party, is, you know, they wouldn't all be matchy. They wouldn't all, so I tried to keep that in mind and just incorporate as many bright kind of fun colors as I could, because that's the only place that I was incorporating color. Because the truck's all one color, and then you have, like, you know, the silver, the chrome kind of bumpers, black tires, undercarriage. Like, the truck is very one note, so I try to bring in my color for, like, the celebration portion of it with these presents. So anyway, we don't, like, since he's gotten older, we have kind of gotten away from doing, like, the gift bags. Was that a thing? It probably, like, it might be a thing when your kids were kids. Like, that's when I was growing up. Like, gift bags at parties were very much a thing, like, where each little kid got a little something to take home. And I did that with his parties for years, you know, where I was, like, buying stickers or whistles, or like, those little pop-it bracelets were popular. And what I found was I just ended up with a lot of leftovers, because you have to buy them, like, so many at a time in order to make it, like, you know, price-wise, to make it worth it. And so I just ended up with all these, like, bunches of leftovers that I had nothing to do with, or kids would forget the bags and leave them. So I got away from doing it probably like 2 years ago, and I've never done it for the little one, for Jelly Bean, because it was just like a gigantic waste of money, and then I had all this clutter I had to store in my house because I paid for it, so I couldn't just throw it away. You know what I'm saying? But I do think they were much more popular kind of like back when I was a kid, that everybody, you know, kind of did gift bags or whatever. So, we didn't do that. We don't have any, like, games or anything, but, we do typically, like, I have a larger family. My husband's, family, obviously, like, it all comes, his aunts and uncles, cousins. And then we have friends that are like family that come, like, my two best friends from my childhood, they come with their kids. So it's, you know, it's a good sized group. And it's always nice to see everybody. But can I tell you my favorite part of the party? Oh, wait, let's talk logistics here real quick. So I am going to cut out the tailgate right here. And I'm going to cut another one out of acetate. And then after I cut I'm going to cut the inside out and then go back in with the tailgate one. Now, this die is originally made to be layered. And that is why you'll see when I cut it that there's a gap, because it's not meant to be a shaker. And I didn't realize there was going to be a gap, but I'll show you how I fixed it. So then the other thing that I need is that, like, tailgate alphabet. I'm going to spell out Ford on the back tailgate. And then the presents, obviously, we're going to die cut those as well. In the balloons, I decided not to go with the letters and decided to go with the numbers. And he's 11, so I need 2 ones. But then I also flipped them around and cut them from the back, because I ended up doing, like, where they hung over. It was a shaped card and they hung over, so I didn't want you to just see that raw kind of white. I did also cut out, remember I showed you the party hat and stuff in the beginning. I cut those out as well, and I'll show you how I intended to use them, but it was too much, I think. So here, what I'm going to do is, normally I'm not a big fan of using liquid glue to glue my items to acetate, because it does take a minute to dry. It will hold, but it does take a minute to dry, and so it's more likely to shift. However, that little tailgate is so thin that I didn't have a choice. So once I get the presents down, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to color the edges so it blends into my truck. I don't want to see those white die cut edges. So I'm just going to go through and do that. I'll spare you the coloring of the whole entire thing, but you'll get the gist. And then how I closed that gap was, remember I told you the license plate die is in the set. And so it doesn't match perfectly because there is a little bit of a gap from where the edge of the dies sit from the license plate to the like frame of the tailgate, there is a little bit of a gap, but I'll show you how I fixed it. So anyway, my favorite part of the party is kind of when, not that I don't know how to word it without it sounding like not nice, because that's not what I mean. But like when you're at the end, all of the hosting is over, and you can just kind of sit around with like your super close friends and family members, and you all just kind of hang out and catch up, and like all of the present opening and birthday cake and singing and like it's just all over, and everybody's just hanging out, and it's just a big party. That's my favorite part of everything that we host. Because if you host things like we do, then oftentimes you're rushing around doing all of the things, and so you don't necessarily get to catch up with the people that you wanted to see in the first place. So that's why the end, like the wind down, is always my favorite part, because then I actually get to talk to people that I love and I want to know how they're doing. So let's talk about the shaker just a little bit. These are very thin pieces of foam tape, but even though they're so thin, the frame is also very thin. And so it's a little bit tricky. Now that foam is exposed in the middle, so I'm able to just go ahead and stick my license plate to that sticky portion of the foam. But the gap in between, I'm actually going to use my markers to color in that gap, so it looks like it runs straight across. Not to mention, once we put it on the truck, it's all going to look like it's fluid. So I did, want to pop up that part of the license plate so it wasn't going to be sagging or anything like that. So I put that in, and then with any shaker card, if you've ever made one before, then you already know that foam tape gives us the lift that we need for the shaker bits to move around, and we need it to be edge to edge. It has to go edge to edge so our shaker bits can't escape. So then I'm double checking it on top of the truck, and I realized that you can still see the white of the foam, and like the foam tape, and I did not like that. So I messed around with it. I tried to get it hidden as well as I could, and you could still see the edge on the inside of the window. So here is how I fixed that. I took my darkest blue and I went around the edge of the window. And it looks like a little bit crazy when you're seeing it just kind of like through. But once you put it on the truck, it's actually hardly noticeable. But all it's doing is kind of hiding the color of the white foam and blending everything into the blue truck, because we have that navy that's underneath it anyway. So that worked really well. I played around with putting the Ford on top of the window or underneath, and honestly, I was worried that putting it on top of the window, like if I didn't get my placement down 100%, that I would have like remnants of glue on my window. So I just decided to go ahead and put it inside where my shaker bits are going to be. Don't worry, they're going to be securely glued down, so they're not going to go anywhere. But yeah, so like the wind down of the party. So for us that night, it was great because my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were here. My sister-in-law played with the kids like endlessly. My goddaughter was here, so she was over like on the swings and the slide with Caitlin, which meant that her mom and I actually got to talk to one another, which if you have kids, you know that like when you do a play date with your kids, you don't actually get to talk to the other person that you're meeting up with, at least not until they get much older. When they're still little, nah, they don't care if you catch up or not. So that part was really super fun, to be able to just kind of sit around, and they were actually here relatively late. But that was fine. They were here after Caitlin's bedtime, but it was really good to see everybody. But I've told you like recently in videos that like May is crazy. And so now like this is Memorial Day weekend, and here we're coming up on hosting again. Here I chose flatter shaker bits. So I chose some clear sequins, some like silver confetti that's flat. And then Honeybee has these obsidian rhinestones that come in all different sizes. So I pulled out the bigger ones and I just used the smaller ones so that I would have that, silver, black, and clear. Well, they're kind of like iridescent little sequins, and that's going to be my shaker bits. I didn't want to fill it too full because I still want you to be able to read that Ford. That is the theme of his party. Speaking of Memorial Day, if you guys follow me, if you follow my, if you've signed up over on the blog, I do have a Crafty sales page. There are tons of sales going on this weekend. And a lot of places are giving away free gifts. They're giving a certain, like free gifts with a certain amount of money spent, free gifts with every order. There's some places that are doing a discount and a free gift. So there's just lots of really great sales. And we've talked about this in the past. Those links are no extra charge to you, but they do support me and help me to bring you more free content. So if you would shop through those links, I would greatly appreciate that. Here, this is the party hat. Like, see how I was going to put it underneath the truck? But it just seemed like it was going to be too much. My kid's a simpler kind of kid. So I think in the future, like if I was doing something like a wedding card, I think that would be super cute. Like, especially if you had people who were doing like a barn theme wedding or something like that, I think it would be really cute to decorate the car for their wedding. Here's me gluing together those ones. One was cut right side up. One was cut the other, right side down, so that way they fit into each other. And since we're doing a shaped card, you'll be able to see that black on the other side of the card. And then just remember, however you're arranging them, I'm arranging my balloons to be a little bit higher than my presents. So that top part, you don't want to put any glue on. You only want to put glue where it's going to actually be sitting on the truck. Don't mind my hair there, right? So once I have those down, for the sentiment, I used the You're So Extra set specifically for this sentiment because it has the You're So Extra, but then on the inside or on the outside, depending upon what kind of design you had, they have a little like extra special, extra loved, extra awesome. And so you can check all of them or one of them, whichever you're feeling. I checked all of them because I do think my kid is all of those extra things. But so to mimic that black, I did white heat embossing on black cardstock and then cut it out with its coordinating die. I also then cut out a second just plain white truck, like use that same die so that they would match up and he would have a shaped card. So anyway, lots of sales. I personally will probably be doing some shopping as well because I'm just like you guys and I'm always trying to save $1. If you've been here, I'm cheap. So this is the general layout of the card. I'm going to adhere that You're So Extra over the presents because the presents aren't the focal point. The presents are just supporting actors. The truck is the focal point, right? Especially for this particular party. For this truck, in order to make it a shaped card, I am going to line up that top portion and score it about a 1/2 inch down. And this is going to bend backwards. So you do want to score it like kind of from behind. So that way when you bend it, and I did do my stamping before I bent it because when it lays flat, it's easier to stamp it. So I did that extra special, extra loved, extra, what was the other one? Awesome. And then this little happy birthday is actually from the mini messages because the happy birthday in the set, well, I would have loved to include it because the fonts match. There was no way it was fitting, not both of them, not inside the shaped card. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down before I put my card together. Just word of caution, don't put your card together until your ink is dry or you will transfer your ink. And then once it's dry, I'm going to bend this back and just reinforce this with a bone folder. And then when you're putting the card together, you only want to put adhesive above your score line. So I am using Honeybee's tear tape for this. This is a thinner one, so I'm just doing 2 little lines and then tearing it off. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of liquid glue right over top of it. And that's not because this tape won't hold. This tape will hold for sure. But I need the wiggle room. especially with a shaped card where you want everything to line up perfectly. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to wiggle that card however I needed to so that it lined up perfectly. I find I have a much easier time lining them up if I hold them in my hand. So that's how I prefer to do it. And then, you can open it up and see the inside of it. A couple little just detail things because you guys know how I roll. I did some highlights with my white gel pen, added in, some little stripes on the bag. I also did the strings for the balloons. Now those dies, like I said, they're being retired. So if you're interested in them, I'd head over and pick them up. But I did those instead of the actual strings so that you could still see the presents. And then I used my white gel pen to draw some treads on the tires, just a little, kind of fun added little detail to make that, a little bit extra special. I did find the white to be a little bit too much, but in that case, once the pen is dry, you can go back in and tint it with a Copic marker, which is what I did. I went right over it with a gray once it was dry, and then that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope this inspires you to make your own custom little shakers out of the things that you have. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video.